So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ontario Parasport Games virtual panel, brought to you by the Oshawa, Whitby, Ajax, Pickering, and Clarington Public Libraries. This program is presented in partnership with the Durham Region, Durham Sport, and the Ontario Parasport Games. My name's Elaine Levart, and I'm a Community Engagement Associate at the Ajax Public Library. Your hosts for this evening, along with myself, are Jen Clark, who is a Community Engagement and Programs Librarian with the Oshawa Public Libraries, and Sue McNeil, a Reference Assistant of the Whitby Public Library. Also joining me is Larry Rosen, a Community Engagement Associate at the Ajax Public Library, and Larry is our tech support for the evening. And I'm sure I'm missing somebody else. Who am I missing? Not sure. Okay, so we are going to be starting off our program tonight with Jen, who will be reading our land acknowledgement.
Hello, thank you for joining us tonight. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past with authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action, acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and move forward with kindness and respect as a community.
Thank you, Jen. And now just a couple of housekeeping items. So tonight's program is being recorded and it will be posted to the various libraries' YouTube channels following the presentation. We please ask that your camera and microphone remain turned off to minimize distractions. Our format for this evening will include a discussion with our panelists, a brief overview on how to attend the games, and it will be concluded with a Q&A session for our audience. If you have any questions for the panelists during the program, please type them into the Q&A feature, which is located at the bottom of your screen. We may not be able to get to all of your questions tonight, so please feel free to upvote your favorite questions. We also have a short poll to see where everyone is logging in from today, so please feel free to respond. So I'm just going to launch the poll now. So just click on where you're coming from. And I'll just give it a few more seconds. That's great. So we got a lot of people from Ajax and from Whitby here with us today. Well, welcome everybody. So if you do experience any technical difficulties during this evening, we recommend that you exit your webinar and then try and re-enter because that often solves the issues. If you continue to have difficulties, please send a message to the host via the chat feature, which is also located down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And a staff member will be able to assist you. Just to reiterate, any questions that are related to technical difficulties should be asked via the chat, and questions for the panelists and our guest speakers can be asked via the Q&A button. So the Durham Region 2023 Ontario Parasport Games will be arriving in just 2 weeks, and it will last for 3 days It will take place from Friday, February the 3rd to Sunday, February the 5th throughout the Durham region. We wish to connect you today with the athletes, coaches, parents, and committee members who have worked tirelessly to make this event possible and to inspire our community with their perseverance and their skills. I'm very excited to introduce our panelists tonight, starting with Mike Frogley. So Mike is a former wheelchair basketball player. He made Team Canada in 1989 and competed with the Canadian men's wheelchair basketball team at the 1992 Paralympic Games in Barcelona, Spain, where Canada placed fourth. He switched to coaching the men's national team from 1996 to 2004, guiding them to an impressive back-to-back Paralympic gold medals in 2000 and 2004, as well as a silver medal in 2008. He spent 21 years coaching men and women in wheelchair basketball in the U.S. college system before returning to Canada to become the Wheelchair Basketball Canada's National Academy Director, and he's currently the chair of the Durham Adaptive Sport Collective. Our next panelist is Matt Greenwood. Matt is the executive director of the Pickering Football Club. He runs the Pickering Football Club's All Abilities soccer programs, which offer children and youth with intellectual and/or physical disabilities an opportunity to participate in specially designed recreational opportunities. The All Abilities team strives for an inclusive environment where no child is noticed for their disability, rather, their enormous abilities shine. He's also involved with Sockability Canada, incorporated in November of 2020, whose vision is to ensure any person with a disability has an opportunity to play, coach, officiate, or participate in soccer in their community with a pathway for further opportunities in the game. I'm also very pleased to welcome Nico and Patrick Yema. Nico has cerebral palsy with limited use of his arms. After seeing Bocha on TV, Nico was hooked and began to play, becoming the provincial champion at just the age of 12. In 2021, he was named the Parasport Junior Athlete of the Year. His father, Patrick, is also joining us this evening to help discuss the perspectives of being a parent to a parasport athlete and how to support family members in parasport. Finally, but last but not least, there's Anthony Liu. A Pickering native, Anthony Liu was on track to realize his dream of competing in the Olympics in the 110-meter hurdles when a workplace accident altered the course of his life. Now a paraplegic, Anthony still retains his goal of representing Canada at the Olympics, just in a different sport, hand cycling. He's currently on a scholarship at the University of Arizona and is working towards representing Canada at the 2024 Paralympic Games in Paris. So welcome everyone, and thank you for being here this evening. We also are joined by Don Terry, Don Terry, who we will be introducing a little later on. So we are going to be starting off our talk this evening with the athlete's perspective section of our discussions. So these questions are really going to be focused on Mike and Nico and Anthony. So I want to start off this evening by asking each of you how you got interested in your respective sports. And I think we'll start off with Mike.
Thanks very much. Literally I got interested in my sport sort of in an almost random way. I had my car accident 36 years ago, and I'd always played sports growing up, and I was literally in rehab, laying in my rehab bed at the time when one of the local club players, Ed Katrowski, came into my room and said, "Hey, I heard you played basketball. Do you want to try wheelchair basketball?" And so I went downstairs in the rehab center that night, and tried shooting around, and I was horrible. I couldn't even get the ball to touch the net, let alone make a basket. And I was like, "Oh, forget this. I can't do this. So I'm gonna maybe if I can't play, I'll try coaching." And so I actually started coaching stand-up basketball. And in the process of going back to the gym every day and working with my local high school team, it was like having an itch you've got to scratch. And so just being around the sport, I had to get back into it. And so I went back to the old asphalt courts that I grew up on one summer and started playing again. And I gradually developed my skills back, and I got a chance to represent Canada in 1992. And it all started sort of in that happenstance. And from there, I just kept looking for opportunities to grow and improve, first as a player and then as an assistant coach and a coach. And that's what led me to get an opportunity to coach the Canadian men's national team in the 3 Paralympic Games I was at. So that's sort of a quick synopsis of how I got there. And now I get to help build the whole sports system and contribute that way with Own the Podium as the Summer Paralympic Performance Advisor.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks. Okay, Nico, how did you get hooked on Boca?
Well, we were watching the Olympics, and there was this super short, like, commercial, and Dad saw a ball rolling down it, and he searched it up.
Yeah, I just ended up searching it up. We saw a commercial, ended up searching it up, found a fantastic group of para-athletes, bocce players in the Whitby area, and they just basically took us under their wing, took Nico under their wing, and from there, he went into his first tournament and ended up winning it, and it was game over. We were pretty much hooked.
Oh, can you explain what bocce is? Because I don't know if everybody may know what it is.
It's a combination of lawn bowling, which I'm like bocce. It's a combination of lawn bowling, but it's done indoors. It is probably, I know this is going to be one of the things, it's probably one of the most adaptable playable sports out there. So nearly any physical disability, anybody with a physical disability can play with some adapted equipment. It's very adaptable that way. And effectively, you throw a jack ball out and you try to beat the other guy, try to get as close as you can, gain as many points as you can, and try to beat the other athlete. It's just one of those things. But like I said, there's multiple categories. So in Nico's situation, he can't throw. So he uses a ramp, but there's 3 other divisions where, people throw. And then somebody acts as his assistant, such as myself, who acts as his assistant on the court. So, it's there's challenges in that as well, because out of, I don't know how many years you've been playing for, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yes.
I've never been able to watch a game of his.
Oh no.
Ever. No, I'm not allowed to face the court. So I've never seen a single shot in a competitive at a highly competitive thing. I've never seen a single shot, so I'm always playing off the crowd.
Yeah.
Which we're hoping to get a lot out of for the Durham Parasport Games, but there's a lot of gray hairs in this beard.
Yeah.
When it grows, there's a lot of gray hairs.
Oh, you think you have it so
Yeah, he gets the stress.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Anthony, how did you pick your sport?
It was kind of a natural progression for me, much like Coach Frog. When I was injured, somebody came to me and they're like, "You got to try wheelchair basketball." And very quickly, I shot out to Variety Village, started playing some wheelchair basketball there, but it was never one of my sports that I played growing up, like competitively at least. And so when my friend lent me his hand cycle and I found out it was a Paralympic event, it was kind of like, it was a no-brainer for me, honestly. I just love to go fast. It was outdoors, and it was a way for me to really just have a new outlet. So I got on the hand cycle, started training. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of resources, so I've seen hand cycling in Ontario grow from grassroots, and now there's teams and private teams, and it's amazing now. So just working my way up through the rankings, hitting some national time standards along the way, and then receiving this scholarship to the University of Arizona has been an absolute blessing and a fulfilled dream. So I'm very happy and blessed to be where I'm at right now. It's life is good and sport is amazing.
That's brilliant. Yeah, you all seem very happy in your chosen sports, that's for sure. So, what are your goals that you are currently working towards? So, we'll go backwards. So, Anthony, what are you working towards right now?
So as I just mentioned, I'm at the University of Arizona, and that has always been a goal for me as an athlete to get a Division I full ride scholarship. And unfortunately, growing up in high school, I lost my scholarship in the hurdles, and um, didn't really think that I would be back in this position ever again. And just being very fortunate, not giving up on myself, found myself down here on the scholarship. While I was training, I got recruited, actually training in Arizona, racing in Arizona. They saw me. The University of Arizona has one of the largest adaptive sports programs in the nation, so it was a great fit. And now, well, ever since, not now, but ever over the past, I guess, about 6 or 7 years now, it's been a trek towards the Olympic Games, representing Canada at the Paralympics in the sport of hand cycling. So it's that's the big goal right now, and finishing my studies and making sure I do well here, getting that degree, coming back home and making some meaningful change, as we were speaking about earlier. So
Ah, that's great. Thanks. And Nico, you have already accomplished so much, and I'm guessing you're only just in high school, and you've probably done more than 3/4 of the planet. So what is your next goal? What are you going to do next?
I want to make it to Team Ontario and then eventually Team Canada and internationals is the game plan.
That's the next one. That's good. Yeah, I can't believe how much you've already accomplished. And you're what, 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, 14. That's incredible. That's really good. Good for you. And Mike, what's in the plans for you?
So I'm really fortunate. It's neat to listen to Anthony and Nico, because I can remember when I was exactly in the spot that they were in, and the journey they have ahead is so exciting. For me, I'm on the other end of it now, though. And what I would say is, what I want to do is I want to contribute to building a parasport system that maximizes the experience and the potential of all the people inside it. So just a small, simple little goal.
Yeah. Oh, good. All right. One last question before we move on. What is one thing you know now that you wish you had known when you first started? So we'll start with Mike.
Wow, that's a tough one. One thing I know now that I didn't know when I first started. What I would say is, there is always a way. So I think that when I first started, there were, and it still happens from time to time, people present obstacles as absolutes. And what I've learned over all my years is an obstacle is not an absolute. It is just one of many paths that it is closed off. But that doesn't mean you can't achieve your outcome. You just have to find the path that allows you to get there. So there's always a path. There's always a way, somehow, some way, to achieve your goals.
Yeah, thanks. And Nico, if you could go back, what, 6 years, 5 years, what would you tell yourself? Go back.
The community, the amount of people that play and how nice they are, how they take me in,
Yeah, the support's just been, and I'll kind of talk a little bit to that, is it's amazing, the community, and just even going to these national tournaments with much older, more experienced people, just how amazing the community is. And you didn't get to see that when you're starting, or when you're a 9-year-old in a wheelchair, especially even as parents. You don't know that that's out there, and then you end up showing up and everybody's just like,
let's do this.
let's do this, let's help you, let's work with you. And it's been unreal.
Yeah. Is it true that your classmates would come and watch you?
Yep, it is.
Yeah, we had we had what we called the Sea of Red last Durham Parasport Games, and that's actually really what I'm wearing right now. So we ended up buying one of these sweaters, and then everybody just kind of tacked onto it, and we had something like 30 people, two grade 6 classes show up, and they didn't show up for Nico. They showed up for the athletes. It wasn't a Nico focused thing. They showed up for the athletes, and Don, I think you remember it, like the athletes kind of were like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But everybody just had a big smile on their face because now they're playing in front of a crowd. But yeah, this support is, even outside of the para community has just been unreal. There you go.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better, right?
Yep. Nope.
And Anthony, what would you go back and tell yourself?
Oh boy, we don't have enough time. I'd probably say do a little bit more research, speak to more people, because it was a little difficult getting started. The cost of a hand cycle it's up there. It's very high. And the resources weren't necessarily there. So it made it a little bit more difficult, or as Coach Frog would put it, an obstacle, but it wasn't absolute. I was able to figure it out, but it was really difficult. And there's times where it's like, maybe I should have taken an easier route, but everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't be here in Arizona if I had. So I'm very happy for my choices. Yeah, I probably wouldn't change anything.
No.
But just research and networking, like
Yeah.
Nico and Patrick were alluding to, the community has been amazing. And just networking, getting out there and speaking to people. Doesn't really matter if it's sport or work or whatever it is, just getting out there and just meeting new people can bring you to new places.
Yeah. I think from what I've heard from all of you, community has really played a big role in your lives, really. Yeah.
Definitely.
So we're going to move next. We're actually going to pick on Patrick. So I want to get the parents' perspective. So what it's like to be involved in supporting an adaptive sport athlete, what's involved in it, and also what resources are out there to help the parents and the family members.
I think the best 2 words is challenging, but very rewarding. It's extremely challenging simply because, although the community is fantastic, the resources may not be necessarily readily available. And on top of that, what I found for this sport in particular, every piece of equipment needs to be adapted for the individual. So there's always, something to do, or something that you'd have to create custom. So the challenge is, trying to find the resources, get the equipment, get the time to find the court space to do it when you're talking about a small scale, because we're not talking about necessarily a big club or a very let's call it popular sport. But again, we've been really lucky with the Whitby Ability Center. We've been lucky that I happen to be, my family's pretty technical. My dad's a millwright. I'm an engineer. We've been able to kind of adapt Nico stuff. But it just comes down to the challenging part is, finding the resources out there that you can tap into outside of the community, but that you can tap into to make things happen. There was never a time where we said, you know what, he can't reach a ball, so he can't play it. It was always, okay, let's figure out a way around it to do it. Again, we're lucky enough that we have a technical and pretty, how do I say this, talented? No. We got a family that can make stuff, but other families don't have that necessarily, have access to that. So whenever we can help, we end up doing that too. So it just comes down to helping each other out, really.
Yeah. Are there companies around that can help you do the adaptations that you need to do, or is it like a sit in your garage on the weekends and kind of figure it out?
It's sit in the garage on the weekends. It's like I mentioned before, the sport is very inclusive. It can be played by pretty much anybody. The flip side to that is that everybody's different. So Nico plays with a very particular head pointer. Well, other players won't play with the same thing. They'll use a different piece of equipment, a different type of ramp, whatever works for them. So nothing's very like off the shelf. There's very few things that are off the shelf. So yeah, everything basically comes down to, I wish I could say it's only the weekend. You know, I go to bed thinking about it going,
Yeah.
all right, how am I going to do this? I drive him nuts because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like 2 weeks before a tournament. I'm like, I'm changing this. We got to do this. He's like, what is going on?
Oh, yeah.
I drive him crazy, and I drive the family just absolutely nuts leading into a tournament because I'm like, oh, we can make it better. Let's go. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, please don't change it. But no, there's nothing really off the shelf. And you know, in this particular sport too, a lot of the stuff comes overseas and is I don't want to say one of a kind, but they're built to order, so they're also very expensive. Like I'm sure many people will nod and say, you know, their piece of equipment, well, everything medical or everything associated disability is very expensive because it's not really something that's common. It's kind of you order it and they build that particular one. So yeah, it's been a challenge, but just to see him, not see him. Apparently, I don't get to watch a game. Just to hear him play and how he's doing is just worth everything. So we do it happily.
Yeah, but it's worth it. You get to look at me all day.
Oh,
Oh,
I
there
get to
you
look at
go.
you,
Gaze on Nico the whole time.
Oh, don't remind me.
So how do you find, like I know having my own children in sports, how do you find balancing like your work life and your personal family life with all of the extra? I'm sure there's the practices and all the travel and all that kind of stuff. How do you manage with all of that?
I'm gonna win some brownie points with a fantastic wife. That's how I do it. My wife is awesome. We have two other children too, so we have 3 kids. 6, 10, and 14. Nico being the eldest. But it's definitely a challenge, especially when we're talking about a few tournaments during the year and then practicing for those tournaments. And when you try to get to, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of nods here, when you try to get to the next level, being like he was saying, national or international, you just have to put that much more focus on it, right? So we tried to balance it between this sport and all the things that the other kids are doing. But one of the perks of going to these tournaments is when we go to hotels, the other kids enjoy, you know, a swimming pool. It's like a staycation, right? They get to go,
Yeah.
go to a new place. Yay. That's, you know, what kind of way we sell it. But no, it's definitely a challenge, but I'd imagine it's a challenge for every, not just para athlete, every athlete is trying to figure out, you know, they want that balance of trying to make it to the next level and also just living, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to have a normal life. It's kind of difficult.
Yeah. So do your siblings all go to your tournaments to cheer you on?
Yeah, most of the time.
Most of the time, and then sometimes they go, you know, running around like crazy. And, they do their own thing, but no, they're very supportive. I think I had Kara the other day reffing a game. So I mean, my 10-year-old reffing a game. So you know, now she's looking at the game going, oh, I could beat these guys. You know, we did it at Nico's high school, so they were fantastic too. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Do they give you pointers, Nico, if they see something?
They've had some whiteboards sessions with them for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like, oh, you should have did this. I'm like, oh boy, all right.
Oh, I'm sure that goes over well listening to your younger siblings, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Sorry?
Nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
All right. So we're going to move on now to the coaching perspective. So this is questions for Matt and for Mike, really. So tell us, what does it take for an athlete to get to a high level of competition? So we'll start with Matt.
That's a really interesting question, particularly in the context of parasport. So if I take a sort of a snapshot of the blind soccer athletes that we've got at Pickering and also the team at North Mississauga, depending on sort of where the genders are within the international landscape, tells us an awful lot. So on the male side, we're probably about 15 or 20 years behind most of the sort of soccer nations when it comes to blind soccer. So we've got a lot of work to do there to catch up with the talent on the field. No surprises, Brazil and Argentina are at the top of the world rankings when it comes to blind soccer, as well as other forms of soccer. So there's a lot of work for us to do on the male side. The female side of the game is relatively new, really sort of taken off in the last 2 or 3 years. And we've been told that we have a group of female athletes that could quite easily step onto an international stage and compete and do Canada proud. And that's with very little training. So sort of our first sort of snapshot is to sort of see how we measure up sort of globally to see what sort of work needs to be made up there. But as with most team sports and most individual sports, it's the stuff that you do outside of the training environment with your team, you know, concentrating on your fitness and your nutrition, your stretching, and even sort of learning more about the game through sort of classroom sessions that are just as important as what you do when you come to the field and train. So one of the challenges that I have as a coach is that it's so important when my players get together, and we talked about community before, that sense of belonging and just getting to connect. So when they come and train, we have to sort of cut through that kind of social piece, which is really important, and then get to the real focus of what that session is. But seeing that that focus, that attention on the players' faces, the work rate on the court, on the field is fantastic. But then also knowing that they're doing that work when they go home, they're going out for a jog around the block or the neighborhood, or they go into the local gym to keep on top of their fitness. So in a nutshell, I would probably say sort of dedication and doing what's not always seen by the coach. What are they doing outside of that time, which is going to help get them to that next level.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So where do most of you're coaching the girls blind soccer team. Are they all over Canada? Or are they like sort of in Ontario? Like how hard is it to get them all together to actually work as a team?
It's quite hard to get them together as a team. Probably only happens maybe twice a year.
Oh, wow.
But as this evolves, and really sort of last year was a real jumping off point for the female side of the program. So 3 opportunities last year to get them together, and we're looking to make that even more this year. They've already started to kind of, you know, you see the spark that they see there's potential here, and they've got something really exciting to chase after. So we're looking to enter that team into the World Championships, which will be in August in the UK. But they are predominantly from Ontario at the moment. So a big part of this is actually having coaching staff or people out there in the community across the country that know what they're looking for, and then know how to develop athletes for blind soccer. So that's and Frog mentioned it earlier, that whole kind of system development. We know those athletes are out there, but then we need to do the work to make sure that the coaches and the club structures are in place to pull them in, make them feel welcomed, and then start to develop them even further.
Yeah,
Mike described it as he described it as a small goal. I'd say the devil's in the detail, and it's a huge goal, but we're up for the challenge.
Yeah. How do you, well, this may come up later, but how do you spread the word about the sport and get the girls, the women aware of it so that they even just come out and try?
Do you know what the most powerful tool I found right now is social media as a free and relatively accessible platform to get word out there for people. A lot of times for sighted individuals to actually see a little piece on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever it might be, and just have them realize, well, this does exist. This is a thing, and people actually play this sport, is a huge awareness raising piece. And then you can tag other groups, other leaders in there to help sort of amplify that message. So that's really powerful, and sometimes a lot quicker than actually going through classic kind of sport systems. So rather than me having to go to other local soccer clubs and then to provincial associations and the national association, actually putting it out there in the public domain probably gets to a lot more people a lot quicker.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think social media is probably playing a huge role in getting more awareness out about all the different sports that are available now.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Mike, same question for you. So what what does it take for an athlete to get to a high level of competition?
So I think for me, it breaks down into three different areas. When I look at athletes that are really successful at the highest level, I see certain three commonalities that show up on a regular basis. First thing are their values. They're great people, and there's certain values that show up. One, they have tremendous passion for their sport. They just love it. They love to go out and train and compete and play. They have a high degree of integrity. They're people you can count on and that are honest. They have a lot of respect, and they have respect particularly because what they are is they're great listeners. They really value what other people have to offer in them maximizing their potential. They know they can't do it themselves, and so they really show a lot of respect for the team and the support group around them. Tremendous discipline. They don't shy away from doing the difficult things. Anybody can do the easy things. Discipline means doing the hard things. And then they have a growth mindset. They're always looking at improving. So values are the first thing. Matt actually touched on the second thing. They have a holistic perspective on their development. They work on their technical skills, their tactical skills, but they also develop themselves physically, mentally, from a health perspective. They keep their body and their mind healthy. And then they find a balance with life outside of their sport, so that they can holistically develop themselves. And then the last thing that I always see, tremendous perseverance. The path to becoming the best you can be in anything is never smooth. There are always bumps. You have to be able to persevere through those bumps. If you can do that, you can be successful. But if you let the bumps stop you, derail you, change your direction, and prevent you from getting there, then that's one of the biggest things. So perseverance is that final thing. So values, a holistic development of oneself, and then perseverance.
Oh, that's really good. I think we can all take those life lessons for sure. So over the course of you doing the coaching for the various years, so what barriers are still out there for adaptive sport participants?
I think there's really two areas that I see as barriers. The first is physical. While we can get into most facilities from the standpoint of actually move ourselves into them, I think the difficulties is still, and I heard Patrick touch on this, and I think Matt touched on it, and Anthony. There's a prioritization that doesn't always happen. There very often, adapted sports are farther down on a facility's list to bring in to time slots. So it's tough to get the time slot you need. And then the other piece is the cost associated with it. Sometimes the cost is prohibitive to get those time slots. So that there's a piece there that's tied to physical access. There's also still a piece tied to attitudinal access. And sometimes what happens is we forget about people with disabilities. We don't see them, and we don't see them as athletes. And so we don't think that they need to have access. And then the other piece is we have a perception sometimes that limits how we view an individual with a disability. We don't know how they're going to do something or if they can do something. And so we create an obstacle through our perception, as opposed to seeing what a person can do and valuing them and including them based on the value of their ability, which is actually what we all want, to be valued and included based on what we can do, what we're good at. And so I think there's two ways that we still have barriers. One is a physical one, tied to our prioritization. And the second one is attitudinal. It's tied still largely to perception. And those are all things that we're working to change. And those are things that anybody who comes to the Parasport Games, they'll have a different view of the world after seeing those athletes compete. And so it's going to contribute to changing those two things, that physical prioritization and the perception of our community, of the athletes with disabilities in our community.
Yeah, Yeah. Matt, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd like to, I'm going to jump off from what Frogger just said there, and kind of similarly with the physical and the attitudinal, two different angles on that. So from the physical perspective, we've done some really great stuff here at Pickering Football Club over the years with our All Abilities program, which has really set the tone sort of across the club. So we're probably one of the few clubs where our All Abilities program, whether it's the indoor season or the outdoor season, is one of the first things that goes on the schedule of which fields they want to which times they want. So we think about things like when the turf time is inside our dome, that we're as far away as possible from our air vents, which make a lot of noise pumping the air in to keep the dome up. And when we're at outdoor fields, we're further away from the parking lot and from any roads, just in case we've got any athletes that have a habit of running. So it's a priority for us as a club, and we've done a great job of that. We just wish more clubs were A, starting a similar sort of program, but B, putting these programs as a priority first and then building everybody else around it, particularly when it comes to scheduling and the busyness of families. And I know Patrick and Nico could probably speak to this, but sometimes getting transport from A to B is not always that easy, and then getting near to the facility. So making things as practical as possible for families is huge, and we're really proud of that. So that's sort of a physical piece to that. The other piece around attitudinal is something that I find it's almost a fear, particularly within sort of the soccer family, of, well, we might get some of these athletes, but what are we going to do with them? And are we going to hurt them or break them? Or are we going to get sued because we didn't say the right thing? And it's all of these fears and barriers kind of build up in people's mind, that whole kind of attitudinal piece that then stops even a conversation or a thought of progressing. So one of the things that we try to do with the club and through our Soccerability Canada program is try to ease those fears of clubs, explain to them that by not doing this, they're actually causing a lot more risk, because there's going to be even more backlash if they're not in an open and accessible club and environment. So yeah, very similar to Mike on that, just sort of different angles on that physical and attitudinal barrier.
And if I could just jump in real quick, just
Oh
because
yeah, go
I
ahead.
know I go back to
Anthony, I'm
the,
sure wants to say something too.
yeah, sorry, Anthony, yeah, I jump in there for you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know I'm going back to the community thing, but I mean, a prime example of the attitude side of it was in Nico's high school. Like his gym teacher, his phys ed teacher, found the obviously it's challenging to set up a program for him. But the first thing he did, and the entire school did, was contact me and say, hey, what can we do? Like, we wanted to showcase bocce, but is there anything else? Reaching out, and it's both the community, the able-bodied community, but also the para community. And I mean, I reached out to Mike and said, hey, I think the kids would love, the high school grade 9 classes would love to do wheelchair basketball. There wasn't even a hesitation. It was like, yep, we're doing this. Let's go. The Ability Center said, yep, we'll get you the wheelchairs. And we just blew them away. Danny, I mean, Danny was there, just absolutely was, they were all stunned. I think it was 1 against 11.
Oh yeah.
And Nico was there, and he wiped them out. Like, he just wiped them out. And I saw the kids the other day, because we did a bocce session with them, and they were just like, we're doing that again. We love it. We want to do bocce. We want to do sitting volleyball. So it was just that awareness, right? That attitude was like, oh, Nico, can we touch you? Can we, can we talk to you? Can we do whatever? To all of a sudden, it's like, we want this as a I don't want to say it's going to be unit, because I'm not going to overcommit the high school, because it's not that, but we want this as a feature. Like, we want to do the wheelchair, and the high school's been fantastic. And like I said, it was a single email, hey, can we do wheelchair basketball? And it just blew up. It was like, yep, we're doing it. We'll send we'll send Danny, we'll send everything. And it was we're looking forward to doing it next semester, when even Nico's out of phys ed class. And I was supposed to be 1 grade 9 class, and we ended up having all 3. Like, the girls' classes came in because they were seeing what was going on, and they all jumped in the chairs. And it's just a wonderful feeling, but it comes back to the attitude side of it. So it's just being open-minded and being willing to bring it in and see what it's all about. It was an amazing thing to watch. And like I said, we did the bocce a couple of days ago, and that was
awesome.
They just blew their minds.
Awesome.
They're like, oh, Nico, this is what you do? It's like, yep, now you understand. Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is for everyone, but is there opportunities for anyone to try any of these sports? Like if, like you said, with the wheelchair basketball and the bocce, can anybody go and try like sledge hockey? I think I remember at some point you could try sledge hockey somewhere. It's like in the back of my mind that it was possible, but could we try like blind soccer, and can we do this anywhere, or is it difficult to do? Like, I don't know.
In our experience with preparing to host the games, one of the things we found is that the biggest difficulty is finding out where the sports are available. And
Mhm.
so that's something that we're trying to work on. But certainly for sledge hockey, the Steelhawks play out of the Whitby Iroquois Arena. I
Okay.
believe it's every Sunday morning, and they always welcome anybody who wants to come and see the sport, try the sport. That's the way you're going to grow the sport. I know that Matt is open to people coming out to five-a-side or blind soccer. And the same with Frog is running a wheelchair basketball program for youth out of
Yeah.
the Ability Center. There and not to leave out Patrick and Nico, they're also running the Bocce Busters, which is a new club out of Durham as well. So there's a lot of opportunities, and part of what we want to do through the games is to help people see just how many opportunities they are, both as athletes, but we also want to encourage people to think about coaching or managing or supporting the sport in some other way as well, because we really want to grow them here in Durham.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're going to be talking about that in a minute because I've got some questions. And then Anthony, did you want to add anything about the what more needs to be done or the barriers that are there?
Everything honestly has been said.
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing I find is the attitudinal barriers. As like I'm echoing everybody, it's one of those things where we got to have those conversations, and once we have those conversations, people are realizing, and then you have those try it days, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is available. This is fun. This is a new avenue. It's a new way to do things, and I can support a family member, a friend in their avenues or pursuits and their competitiveness, or even just recreation. So it's like what the Parasport Games have been doing in Durham over the past few years is absolutely phenomenal, because the awareness just over the past couple of years compared to when I've been coming up in sport is absolutely amazing, and it's reaching that many more people. So as long as we keep doing what we're doing, I think that a lot of these attitudinal barriers will get broken down. There's going to be more access to resources, more equipment will be available as well too. And when more equipment's available, more people can participate, because I think that's one of the bigger barriers is just finding the proper equipment that fits and allows you to participate in a fun and safe manner. So we just got to keep doing what we're doing, really and truly.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue into bringing Don into this conversation. So we didn't introduce him properly before, but Don Terry is the co-chair of the 2023 Ontario Parasport Games, and Mike Frogley is the chair of the Durham Adaptive Sport Collective. So they are actually going to speak today about the games that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I will turn it over to Don.
Oh, great. Well, we're really excited. We've been working hard for well over a year to prepare for about 300 athletes coming from across the province to compete in 11 different sports at 8 different venues across Durham Region. And we also have 4 demo sports. I won't list all the sports, but maybe I'll list the demo sports. One that there's a couple that we're excited about all of them, but we're running a program called Power Hockey as a try it and demo sport on this Sunday. And the great thing about that is that we've been able to partner with Power Hockey Canada and the Ontario Parasport Collective and the Pickering Football Club to be able to offer that as a pilot program following the games as well. So there'll be a 12-week program available to anybody who wants to get involved with power hockey, which right now you would have to go into Toronto or further aflung to try. We'll also have adaptive or para climbing as a demo as well out of the Ability Center. And that's being led by a group out of Whitby, a business called Aspire Climbing. And they have the ability and the certification to work with people of all abilities to enjoy rock climbing. And then we also have para equestrian, which is going to be held at Windreach Farm. And it's the most appropriate place for it to be held because the founder, Sandy of Windreach, was a para equestrian athlete and represented the country of Bermuda twice. And the last sport is floor curling, which is just like curling without ice. And that's available for anyone who wants to play it at the Ability Center.
Oh, okay. I might try the curling one. I'm not allowed to do curling myself because I fall too much on the ice. So I've been banned from it apparently. But oh, that sounds really good. So if somebody wants to find out where all the events are taking place, there's a website for that. I
There
think we
is.
just popped it up on the chat there. Yeah.
Yeah, the website is just Durham Region 2023.ca. And we're also all over social media as well. Under Sport Durham, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram and Facebook. And we also have a TikTok account as well.
Oh, wow.
We're really using those social media accounts to try and drive awareness, not just of the games, but all of the legacy and the positive impact that comes out of the games as well.
Yeah, and all the game it's in all parts of the Durham region. There's going to be different events going on in the various different towns and cities at different times, or
There are. We primarily along the lakeshore communities, but you know, in Pickering we have wheelchair tennis. In Ajax we have goalball. In Whitby we'll have sledge hockey, sitting volleyball, and bocce. Over in Oshawa we have five-a-side or blind soccer. And in Clarington, we have downhill skiing, or sorry, para-alpine and para-Nordic skiing. And also in Oshawa, at the Oshawa Curling Club, we have visually impaired and wheelchair curling.
oh, wow. So there's a lot going on over 3 days. It's really packed.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and we really encourage people to come out to make it inclusive. We're not charging any admission fee for people to come to the events. As part of our commitment, and we're to sustainability, we're asking people to please consider bringing a donation of a non-perishable food item in support of Feed the Need. But we're not charging anything because we want as many people as possible to come out and see these athletes and see the sports and really walk away. Some of the guys talked about it earlier, but walk away with fresh perspectives on the value of inclusion and accessibility, and really understand that it's important to look at what people can do before we start thinking about what they can't do.
Mhm. And do you have to buy or get the tickets online, or can you show up at the different venues and just
Yeah,
get
no,
them there?
just show up the venue. Our schedule will be up on the website on Monday, early next week, so they can pick various sports that they'd like to try out. I'll maybe just jump in with another program that we're offering, which is really important to us. It's an initiative we launched in 2019, and we call it Be the Roar. And it was born out of attending some other games where we saw what we thought was a woeful amount of people in the stands for, say, a gold medal sledge hockey game. There was 25 people in the stands, and we just thought that's not good enough for our athletes because they work so hard to get to these games. And for some of them, they'll go on to international or national competitions, but for some of them, this will be the pinnacle of their athletic career. So we want to do better than that. So what we ask is for businesses, schools, churches, community groups, sports teams to set up a fan club, just to reach out to us, and we'll connect them with an athlete or a team. They can prepare letters that will get to the athletes when they arrive at the games. And then we just really want them to come out to the games and cheer for the athletes and give them that thrill of competing in stands filled with fans. And in 2019, our community really answered that call for sledge hockey from Friday afternoon on. We had standing room only, over 300 people in the stands for every game. And it made such a big difference for the athletes. It really made it a much more memorable experience for them. And for us, it's great that all those people got to see everything that these athletes can do.
So what do you think the hottest ticket's going to be?
It's interesting. It tends to be sledge hockey.
Yeah.
Last time we had wheelchair rugby, which was
Oh,
very popular because they really hammer each other in their
oh
chair.
yeah. I can
One of the
imagine
great
that
things,
one.
one of the great things about that is, from my perspective, is that the very best players in 2019 in wheelchair rugby were women, and they were head and shoulders above all of the other competitors. So that was nice to see. I think people will be interested in wheelchair tennis this time, and really they should get out and see bocce. And
Mhm.
for me, one of the really fascinating sports to watch is visually impaired curling. I don't know how, like I curl once in a while and I'm
Yeah.
pretty terrible. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know how they
Very bad.
to just throw to a flashing, throw to a noise. And they're pretty accurate. And of course, blind soccer, five-a-side soccer. I see Matt give me a bad look there. Should definitely get out and see that as well, because the athletes are pretty phenomenal, and many of them are from Durham Region, which is exciting too. We want to support our Durham Region athletes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. So what other ways can the Durham community get involved to support you, or all of you, really?
Somebody else want to jump in? I've been talking for a while.
But I think that Don already talked about the importance of coming out and seeing the athletes. The athletes have worked really, really hard, and they want to share what they're doing. In fact, it's the neat thing about sport is it's a language that we all speak and we all understand. And so when you see an athlete competing out there, you get a sense of what they're going through. Sometimes good and great, sometimes not, and you share in that moment with them. And so that's one of the things is come out and share in that. And we have a phenomenal community in the Durham region. It's really gotten behind the games again, and come out and be part of that. Come out and see all of those great athletes that are in the region and all the support behind them. And then ask yourself, so this is just the games. How can I keep supporting this community and these athletes? And there are some great ways we can do that. And each of these sports is going to need continued support. Matt touched on it a little bit earlier. Patrick and Nico touched on it. Anthony touched on it. There are still obstacles for a lot of these athletes. And when you get involved out of the games, post games, you join the athletes on that long journey to being their very best.
Yeah, that's well said. And I would suggest also be an advocate. Be an advocate for accessible sports in our community. When your municipality is planning future facilities, be a voice. Be part of the voice that says, "Hey, what about the accessibility? What about lining the floors so that it's a bocce court as well?" I think really that's another really powerful way that people can support, because ultimately we want to put on the best games yet, but we also at the same time are trying to leverage every opportunity that we can find to raise awareness and grow opportunities and grow participation in accessible sports in our community.
Mhm. I understand volunteers, you already have enough volunteers for the para sports, which is fantastic because a lot of places are struggling just to get volunteers. So the fact that you've already had to cut it off is brilliant. But if somebody wants to get involved as a volunteer or a coach, what would they need to do? Who do they go and see?
If they come out to the games, they will have access to be able to talk to coaches or the provincial sport organizations or local organizations that are offering sport, particularly for those demo sports. But following that, one of the great legacy initiatives out of the 2019 Ontario Parasport Games that we hosted is our Durham Adaptive Sport Collective, and its role is really as a group of volunteers who role again really is to try and grow those opportunities, help remove barriers, and get more people involved as both as coaches and players alike. So that'll be an organization that will carry the ball going forward following these games to try and set up those communication channels so we can continue to get new people involved in the sport, and watch for in the fall of 2023 as one of our initiatives as well. We're planning to host the first Durham adaptive sport school festival, where we're
Oh,
inviting secondary schools from our region to come out with athletes of all abilities, teams of athletes of all ability to compete with each other in a number of different accessible or adaptive sport. And we're really excited about that. And it'll become, the intent is for it to become an evening session as well, where families can come out and meet with local sport organizations to find out more. I just love it because for me growing up, sport was pretty important.
mhm.
And for a lot of people with disabilities, they might never take a phys ed class. They'd probably never imagine pulling on their school jersey and representing. And this will give them that opportunity to do that. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Will that just be in one location, or will it be all over Durham? Do you know yet? Or is it still in sort of the planning phases for that?
We're still in planning phases, but the intent is for it to be a one-day event and to bring it most likely to the Ability Center and
Yeah.
bring everybody there.
Yeah. Oh, I look forward to hearing more about that. All right. So we have to move on now. So, as part of our initiative to make the games and our library collections more accessible, the Durham libraries have added sensory support kits to our collection. These kits can be borrowed for free with a library card and taken outdoors to different venues and public spaces. These kits contain a variety of objects designed to soothe or calm those who experience sensory overload and overstimulation. Equipped with noise-canceling head covers, tinted glasses, and a wide array of fidget devices, these kits can help ease stress to neurodivergent and neurotypical patrons alike. Each kit contains a pamphlet from Autism Canada with instructions on how to support individuals experiencing a sensory shutdown. If you will see the chat, we will be linking each partner library's record for the kits, and you can place a hold and reserve a kit today. And for more information on how to do so, you can contact your local library. So I'm now going to turn things over to Suzanne McNeil from the Whitby Public Library, and she will be hosting this evening's audience's Q&A. So take it away, Susan.
Why, thank you. And thank you everyone for all of that great information. I am Sue McNeil from the Whitby Public Library. Let's see, anyone who has questions, please do use the raise your hand option at the bottom of your screen, and I will ask questions from there, or type something into the chat. And I'm not seeing anything at the moment, so I'm going to get started with a couple of questions myself. For Dawn, what kind of sports will be showcased at this year's games? Is that, have you covered everything that's going to be, that we're going to see?
I think I probably have. I probably didn't touch on sitting volleyball.
Nope.
That'll be at the Ability Center, and we will have a number of a former or current national sitting volleyball team players participating in that sport, which is exciting. We also will have wheelchair basketball, which is going to be at the Oshawa campus for Durham College, Ontario Tech. I think I've covered all the other ones in a scattered sort of way.
Yep, fantastic. My next question, I just kind of want to throw out there, and whoever wants to answer first, please, which is, why is inclusion in sport so important? Anyone care to answer that?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. So
Thanks.
one of the things that, so I mentioned that sport is a language we all speak, and that's important because it allows us to come together as a group. Belonging is one of the most important things for our individual and collective health. And sport provides that opportunity, and adapted sport provides it to a greater extent because it allows even more people to belong to a group. You heard Nico and Patrick talk about how bocce allows for people of all different levels of functional ability to compete together and to belong. And so the real big thing that sport does is it brings people together in a group and creates that belonging that's so important to our well-being.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
That's one of the hashtags that we've been using on our social media for the games is better together. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Frog has touched on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be local either. I mean, the community that we've seen, like from all over Ontario, even Quebec, and I mean, like we play at the national level, so in different provinces is fantastic. Like you get to meet like-minded people, all playing in the same, kind of same sport. So it's just, amazing to be, oh, I got a friend in Niagara Falls, or I got a friend, many ways, many different places. It's just, it's again, not just a local thing. It's everywhere really.
Thank you. All right, let's see here. I have a comment. It says from Kathy, not a question, but I'm excited that the schedule will be posted next week. That was going to be my question. Eager to see the opening ceremonies and to see Nico play bocce. Am I pronouncing it right? Bocce?
Bocce.
Oh, geez, bocce.
No, it's close. It's close enough. It's fun.
I went all around it, as well as all the other athletes participating. Thanks for that. And what do the opening ceremonies look like?
The opening ceremonies will be held on Friday evening at the Ability Center, and they're going to be pretty phenomenal. We have some great entertainers. We will have participation by our local Indigenous community as well. And I really encourage everyone to come out. Glenn Healy and his Highland Creek Pipe Band will be marching bringing the athletes into the opening ceremony. Actually, we have a great MC too with a great story. Our MC is a fellow who grew up in Orono here in Durham Region. His name is Rob Snook, and Rob Snook is a former Paralympian that still holds, I think, a couple of records in athletics, and is a CBC broadcaster. Travels all over the world, broadcasting and doing color commentary for not just parasports, but also all sports as well. So it should be a great night.
That does sound really good. May I ask a couple more questions, Catherine? Just nod if I have enough time. Yeah, okay.
I think Anthony has his hand up though. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Anthony. Yes,
no problem at all.
please.
I wanted to ask Patrick a question because my mom was like my rock. She still is growing up. She was always at every sporting event I went to and stuff like that. So thank you from like the child's perspective of just that support. But how do you not watch? Because I remember running a hurdle race one time, seeing my mom literally running beside me. And so how do you not watch? Like, what is it like for you? Because like when you were talking, my hands were getting nervous just thinking about it. And I'm like, how do you do it?
I don't even know how to answer that. I'm a stress ball. Like, I mean, I know the athletes you got to get into that zone. It's the same thing for the assistant, simply because a lot of the times when you have a really good pair, and it's usually a parent or sibling or something like that being the assistant, they're usually the one helping out and the assistant on the court. It's insane. I play it backwards in the back of my head, like in my head. I imagine where the balls go. I know how he shoots. I've practiced with him enough. I know how he shoots. Sometimes he even the look in his eyes is like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, you get that little nod, like, oh yeah, we're good. But honestly, I play off the crowd. But there's been times where I'm not sure if he did it on purpose or whatever, where he'd just be like stone faced. I'm like, what's going on? And you're just losing your mind. And yeah, it's
that's because I think about strategy and stuff. I can't help it.
It's very stressful, but again, it's very rewarding when I get to sometimes when they leave the ball in the court, because sometimes they clean it up, but turn around and you see his shots and you're like, wow, okay, how did you do this? And then some other times it's like, oh my God, you missed that shot, and you got to get told afterwards, like, no, he did a good job, he did fine. Like, so a lot of it's video. We replay it. It goes back to what I think Mike and Matt said. It's not about just practicing and just seeing what's on the court. It also has to do you do a debrief afterwards to kind of figure out how you played, the positives, the negatives. You got to learn from the negatives. But I'm just honestly, I mean, he is the athlete. He is the one that makes all the decisions. I can't even talk to him in a game. Like, there's no communication at all. But there's a reason why the assistants win a medal as well, is because you're just in it. I'm not kidding. This is all gray. I don't know how I keep my black hair. This is all gray, and it's all because of this guy.
Oh God.
Oh, thanks.
But thanks for the question. Yeah, we're always looking for. One thing I will say though is we are always looking for assistance, ramp assistance, because a lot of the times it is physically demanding. You got to do a lot of standing up and getting on the legs and stuff like that, and building, and having an assistant. That relationship is unbelievably important. So having somebody show up only once or once in a while, it doesn't work. Like, the best in the world are usually like wives, parents, family members that are just you just understand. I can almost read his mind without him saying a word. So yeah, we're always looking for that kind of support, and it's been an amazing trek, and I'm looking forward to the future. And like Nico said, hopefully Team Ontario, and then Team Canada and international at some point.
Excellent. All the best. I wish you guys all the best.
Thank you. You too. I'm excited to see you compete. Like, it's
gonna be fun.
My only regret about the games is that we're going to be playing and we can't go out we can't make it to the different venues to see everybody, because that would just be like, Matt, I've been playing soccer all my life, so I would love nothing more than to watch that. But
yeah. Défi, you guys are going to Défi, right? So you should be able to, if you go up early, there's tons of games going on Défi. I know that much.
No, we play. I know we're not going to take it up here, but we play before the international comes in. So there's a national Défi. So we play Boccia the weekend before you guys all show up and play. But I would love to. Like, I'll take a look at it. I would love nothing more. And I think that comes back to the community thing. I honestly think we got to support each other, and I would love nothing more. The only regret is that we're going to be playing at the same time, soccer and basketball is going to be playing. I mean, I get lucky enough to see Mike coach right next to us on Tuesday nights, and it's just fun.
Yeah, no, I'll be at Défi too. So I guess our dates won't line up because I'm towards the end of Défi. So yeah.
Stream it, man. Stream it. We try to Facebook it. That's what I'm saying. Wonderful wife. She throws it on Facebook, and we've got people in again, they don't just watch Nico, but people in Italy, like family members in Italy watching, commenting and losing their minds in some cases, like, oh my God, did he just do this shot? Again, I only get to see it afterwards, but my wife's the one on the commentator going, oh yeah, good shot, But
excellent.
Don, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What about legacy initiatives from hosting the games previously?
Yeah, that's something we're really, really, really proud of. Following our 2019 games, one of the things we were able to convert Rink 3 at Iroquois Park Arena, so it's completely accessible for sledge hockey now. prior to that, players would have to sit on the ice between shifts. But what we've been able to do is take out all the wooden boards at the benches and penalty boxes too, and install see-through glass boards. We've widened the entrances, lowered it down to ice level, and installed removable benches. So for our games in 2023 now, the sledge hockey players will actually be able to leave the ice like everybody else during their between shifts. And it's a really important measure of respect and I think value for those athletes. And we also were able to, we did a number of things, but the other really important thing that we did was to launch a fund through in partnership with Their Opportunity, which is a not-for-profit organization out of Oshawa, so that athletes with disabilities whose families are struggling financially, that won't be a hurdle for them participating in sport any longer. They can apply and get some funding to help to make sure that everybody in our community can enjoy all the benefits of sport. So there's a couple things that we did in following 2023. Part of what we want to do is launch a new fund, which will support startup organizations that are offering accessible sports, or existing ones that need a little bit of support to get their coaches trained or buy new equipment. And again, we're just really all about trying to grow those opportunities and support participation.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we've been able to do some really cool things prior to these games too. And Frog and I were able to reach out to a couple of professors of physiology at Ontario Tech. One's a former Paralympian, one I believe is a former Olympian. And we've been able to set up a pilot program where 8 athletes from the Durham community have they have different disabilities, but they've all received an assessment of their fitness, an assessment of their training regimen. They've got they're getting a little bit of education on nutrition and the psychology of competing. And then in 6 months' time, they'll be brought back for a reassessment. And we got some funding from the federal government to do that. And I know when I talked about this before, Anthony had a big smile on his face, because it's just not the kind of support that para athletes get, and particularly at the grassroots level. So we're just looking for every opportunity we can. I have to say that we're proud too of our partnership with the libraries and the way that you all have stepped up as well. Growing up, I was in the library. If I wasn't playing sports, I was in the library, and it was all about books. But you guys are about so much more than books now. And the number of families that have reached out to me to say how pleased they are to see that these sensory support kits are available now, it really means a lot to them. And we've also, in partnership with Grandview Kids, been able to give our volunteers for the game weekend a little bit of education on sensory overload, how to spot it, how to support people who might be having that experience as well.
That's awesome. Thanks. Thanks for the shout out. May I ask the athletes a question, which is, what's the best part of competing? Nico, can I start that with you? What's the best part of competing?
The best part of competing, there's lots of best parts. I don't know, it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, Anthony, you may want to take this one first. And let him,
Hold on, I want to jump in. I thought for sure Nico was going to say getting the boss's dad around.
Oh, I was gonna say winning. It seems like you win all.
Well, winning, that's it. Yeah,
that's true.
That's
Winning,
what I expected to hear.
The problem is the reverse of that is losing. It's like, ooh,
Right?
no, yeah, compete, yeah.
And getting to boss him around is pretty fun too.
Of course. Anthony, is that your final answer, winning?
No, I think because I haven't won in a long time. So it's I was watching something yesterday, and sometimes, or what the gentleman said is like, in a defeat, you win the most and you learn the most about yourself. And over the past few years, the bike has taught me so much about myself, and just to continually persevere through whatever the circumstance may be. So I think the best part about competing is challenging myself, because although I may not always win, I'm always progressing, and I'm being like essentially a better version of myself every day. Well, at least I try to be. And it's got me to the point that I'm at now. So I'm very happy with where I'm at. And hopefully there's going to be some more winning in my future. So
You know what, Anthony, you know, I was watching something the other day too. I was actually watching something on Netflix. I think it's called Rising Phoenix. And there was a line in there that just kind of got me. It was the Olympics create heroes. The Paralympics is where heroes show up. We're going through, we have gone our lives are like, not my life, but I mean, people with disability is a struggle. Like it is. And for individuals, athletes to get to where they are is just, they're heroes before they even step on the court or the field or whatever pitch they're at. They're absolute heroes. So yeah.
Yep. The obstacles and adversity you got to go through just
Yep.
to sometimes get in the building. Like Coach Frog was saying, like now we can get in majority of the buildings, but for some people to compete, they can't even get in the building. So it's for them to figure it out and get to their sport and make it to the highest level. It's for sure,
Or
definitely.
get the equipment in or anything else. Like you need a community or what's it? Yeah, like it's just it's a struggle. And like I said, when you show up, you're already a hero. Like there's no question in my mind.
Got you.
Those are really impactful answers. Thank you for sharing those. Michael, did you want to add anything, or has it all been said?
No, I love what they said. The way I approach competition is I've always approached it as, and the phrase I always use is win the day. And what I always mean by that for myself and what I've communicated with the athletes I've worked is every single day you decide what the win's going to be. And then you go through the process of the day trying to get that win. And that's how each and every day you're practicing being your very best. You're practicing competing for that moment that Nico and Anthony have before them, someplace in the future. And what you do as an athlete is you don't just compete on one day, you compete every day. Every single day, you decide what the win is going to be, and then you approach the day trying to win the day.
That's awesome. I don't have any more questions, and I think that that's just an awesome place to leave it. So I am going to hand it back over to Catherine.
All right, thanks. So we are at the end of our evening. So I want to say a huge thank you to Mike, Matt, Anthony, Nico, Patrick, and Dawn for joining us this evening and sharing your stories and your achievements with us tonight. I thought it was a brilliant talk. I thoroughly enjoyed the evening and talking with all of you. I found you all to be very inspiring, and I hope the attendees who are here this evening felt the same way. Thank you also to Durham Sport and the Durham Libraries for making this event possible and for all of your help with organizing tonight's events, as well as helping out behind the scenes. And thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us tonight and showing interest in supporting athletes within our community. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. We will be posting the Durham Region hosted Parasport Games website link in the chat if you wish to follow for more updates as we get closer to the start of the event. And we will also be posting a recording of tonight's panel on the library's YouTube channels. So good night, everyone, and take care. And thank you again.